Manzanar Taiko!
UCLA Kyodo Taiko! Good to see that blue out here. We're going to talk about SC. You might know of the issue going on right now with the diplomas, but welcome to the 43rd Annual Manzanar Pilgrimage. Bruins. Give him a hand, please. Good job. And I'm just going to kind of vamp right here because the CARE bus, our friends from the Muslim community, have just arrived. And we're going to have a trilingual hello. And me being who I am will speak only in English. And this girl over here to my left, your right, who appears like your normal California blonde chick, is actually Sue Kunitomi Embrey's granddaughter, Monica Embrey, who is bilingual in the language of many of our ancestors. I actually speak more Spanish than anything. So Dad is rushing up here with a friend of ours from the Muslim community right now, wearing a civil rights t-shirt. I can read it from here. Come on over, Monica. This would be like the United Nations instantaneous translation. Peace be with you. No, we need this one here. Well, hello and welcome everybody.
皆様、第43回目のピルグメージへ遠いところからようこそ。
Wow.
Alright, now before I say anything, I'm totally unprepared. They just told me right now, we want you to say something in Arabic, so I don't know, they should have told me before.
Hello and welcome. That's a good start.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahla wa sahla. That's it.
We have come from many places to be together today. Ooh, threw you a curveball.
いろんなところからいらっしゃったんですね。
はい、you'll understand. Thanks, Monica.
ありがとうございました。皆様いらっしゃって。
さよなら。気をつけて。Wow, guys. Thank you all so much for coming. This is, as you've seen in your program, very auspicious today. 70th anniversary of the unfortunate signing of Executive Order 9066 and the wonderful anniversary, 20th, of the Manzanar National Historic Site. Many, many years ago, as you've seen in your program, or perhaps you now will have time to read, people came out here in December of 1969 and they were freezing. They were absolutely freezing. We got up today and we were hoping we weren't going to get a huge windstorm because they've had some bad wind up here. But it's a beautiful day, and it's a great day to remember. We've got a fantastic program for you today. We're going to try to keep it moving right along. We've got some certificates and awards to give and some speeches to make. Right now I'm going to call up the Superintendent of the Manzanar National Historic Site, Les Inafuku. Please welcome the head man.
Wow, I was gifted by the Manzanar Committee with this beautiful lei. And so to the Manzanar Committee, e komo mai, which means welcome in Hawaiian. And we really welcome them, heartfelt welcome, really, back to Manzanar every year. And I'm speaking on behalf of the staff here at Manzanar National Historic Site and our incredibly giving volunteers and our agency partners today. We have the Bureau of Land Management assisting us, and we also have staff from both Devil's Postpile National Monument and Death Valley National Park assisting us. Plus, the wonderful folks from Bishop Simon's Emergency Specialties with their ambulance. So speaking for all of us, we'd also like to welcome all of you Nisei, those who have been our friends, our giving friends for years and years, and those of you who may be here for the first time, since way back when. And welcome to the majority of you, of us. those of us who were not incarcerated during World War II, and we didn't have to live through this emotionally traumatic experience of unjust incarceration just because of the color of our skin or our religious beliefs or our political beliefs. And this country, has been welcoming to so many immigrants. We are a melting pot of immigrants. And it is sad that in our history we have also turned our backs on the immigrants. So 70 years ago, the West Coast Nisei were transported to Manzanar and a number of other similar war relocation centers. Obviously a much less noxious term than concentration camp. 20 years ago, the National Park Service was honored to become the steward of this Manzanar National Historic Site. And I should say 814 acres of the original 6,500 acres of the Manzanar War Relocation Center. And in this country, we are slowly turning a corner. Our leaders in Washington, D.C. began to listen to their people about 30 years ago, a little over 30 years ago. And we started to see the establishment of National Park Service sites of conscience, such as Andersonville in Georgia, Trail of Tears in the southeastern states, Central High School in Little Rock, and also Minidoka in Idaho, and now we also have Tule Lake. Today, for this pilgrimage, it's the Manzanar Committee and you, the people, who are speaking and listening to one another. We, the National Park Service, are honored to be the hosts, and we just help to facilitate logistically. So this is, for our staff here at Manzanar, the most important day of the year, because this is when we get to see democracy in action here. So we all learn from you, especially today, and so we are glad that you're here with us. And so thank you all for devoting the time and effort to travel to Manzanar. And I really do hope that everyone will keep their hats on and will continue to drink a lot of water. This dry, high desert air really dehydrates you very, very quickly. We don't want to see anybody faint. And so please drink, even if you don't want to go to the Lua, the Potty, the Benjo, whatever you call it. Please do drink a lot. Okay, so thank you very much. Aloha.
Thank you, Les. Quick commercial announcement. T-shirts are available for $15. We have all kinds of interesting people here today, and I'm not kidding about that. The grandson of Ralph Merritt. Anybody know who Ralph Merritt was? He was the director of this camp during World War II. Pete, where are you? There he is right there, guys, all the way from Sandpoint, Idaho. Ralph Merritt III, or as we know him, Pete. Thank you, Pete. Thanks for coming. If you guys want to go over and say hi, please do. Was anybody here born in camp? Wow, look at all the hands going up. Look at all these people born in a camp. How many of you are here for the very first time? Wow! Are you getting class credit for this or what? It's here, JBA, UTLA, CARE, Pomona College, the Optimists, USC. Susan Lefevre, where are you? Susan? Susan? Oh, who wrote a letter to the university saying, what are you doing? Don't you want to come clean? If you don't know much about the diploma project, guys, it's an amazing thing. Our mother got one because she was at UCLA and never finished. Wonderful thing to do after so many years. There are kids here from Smiley Elementary in Redlands, and their teacher, Mr. Peplow. Mr. Peplow, are you here? Where are you, sir? Mr. Peplow. He had his kids fold up a bunch of cranes. Isn't that nice? Icon Odin, who is doing a documentary. Icon, there you are in the blue shirt right over there, doing a documentary on Ansel Adams. And if anybody had any contact with the famous photographer, please see him. There was one year when the Manzanar Committee was coming out of the Dow Villa Hotel, and we were talking to a guy, and it turned out the guy was the first baby born here in Manzanar. So you'll never know. From small things do great things come. There was an article I wrote for the LA Times about a fisherman who went up to those mountains. In fact, up that cleft behind that ridge. And he disappeared for weeks. His name was Ishikawa. Kori Shiozaki read this, was inspired, and found out the man's name and finished a movie about it. It's called and Bruce Embrey will come on up and present a certificate to Frank Hayes, former superintendent here at Manzanar. Frank, come on up, please.
This man came all the way from Alaska. So I don't know how far, I know we have people from Arizona, but this man came from Alaska. And he held down this fort. He held down this site in the early days. And he came back today. It's the 20th anniversary, but it's the 70th anniversary, because he's our Hakujin friend who understands the significance that this place and all the other concentration camps, including Crystal City, Texas, hold for America. Because this is American history. This is our history, but it's also American history. And he understands its relationship, like Les was saying in the beginning. So for that, we honor him. Thank you. You also are drinking water courtesy of Crystal Geyser. And the manager at the Olancha plant, which you drive by as you come towards Manzanar, is Charles Abbott. And every year they donate this water so that these harsh conditions can be slightly less harsh. So we want to recognize them. And I guess Charles is not here. You know, one group that comes every year that we didn't mention earlier in the recognition of special groups is ADAP. ADAP's in the house. They're right over there. It's a very important organization that grew out of the struggles of the 1960s and 70s that continues to come to Manzanar every year. Asian American Drug Abuse Program, ADAP. You know, speaking of the struggles of the 60s, in your program there are 3 people of note. Gordon Hirabayashi passed away. Gordon was one of the original young men that challenged our government in their attempts to deny him his civil liberties and constitutional rights. There's an article there. We also lost Kazu Sakamoto, who was a long-time member of the Manzanar Committee, and whose family comes every year. Ku came back, very good friend of my mother's. She never missed a pilgrimage. Ku, there's a photograph in the program, Toyo Miyatake photograph, of Kazu walking out with her 2 young daughters. And one of her young daughters at the time will be speaking today in memory of Ku. And we also lost 2 very important original pilgrims, OGs if you will, from 1969. Tomo Hisamoto. Tomo passed away earlier this year, was a longtime dedicated member of the Manzanar Committee. And we lost one of the original members of the pilgrimage, Victor Shibata. There's an article about Victor. Victor actually was credited with naming this a pilgrimage, and we lost them this year. So we would like to dedicate this pilgrimage to them, and we would like to take a moment of silence in their honor. Thank you very much.
Award, and this is for a very special person in the Manzanar story, Rose Ochi. One of the very few Asian Americans to make it way up there to that big city on the East Coast, and the White House, and the cabinet. And Rose had a great deal to do with the establishment of this very park. Tak Yamamoto, Committee Emeritus. Where are you, Tak, is going to do our presentation to Rose. Tak, are you coming? No? Okay. Bruce, are you going to stand in then? All right.
He's behind the truck.
Tak Yamamoto was the recipient of this award earlier in a previous pilgrimage. Tak was in Roastin' Postin, and he was the longtime committee member. He and my mom were responsible for organizing this. I don't know how they did it. Tell you the fact of the matter is, we honor our family and friends and our mothers, our fathers, and uncles who endured camp, and Tak was one of those people. And I think it's important that we honor people like Rose Ochi, who was also in camp. But what's significant about Rose is Rose went on to not just persevere like many people did, but she went on to continue to make sure that her story wouldn't happen to anyone else. And Rose has played a significant role, a key role in the formation, not just of the Manzanar National Historic Site, because Rose had played a key role on a whole lot of issues. So many people here know Rose and know of Rose. In those of you who don't, shame on you, no. But there's an article in the program about Rose written by Martha Nakagawa, who has a very big camera and an orange shirt standing right over there, works for the RAFU, also very famous, active person in our community that we should recognize. But Rose was a very close comrade in arms, if you will, of my mother. She was on every front. She was the pro bono attorney for the Manzanar Committee. She and my mother worked in the Tom Bradley administration in the city of Los Angeles, and they were just inseparable. And you'll notice in the program lots of photographs of Rose. Many of them are alongside my mother. So the two of them, in many ways, are inseparable, and this is why we honor her, among the many reasons. But she walked the halls of power in Washington, D.C. as well. So Rose, come on up.
Rose never ages. He never does.
Good afternoon. What a beautiful day. Sorry, Bruce, you're making me emotional. I'm just so delighted to be recognized by the Manzanar Committee. Thank you, Bruce, for your very kind introduction. Bruce and Carrie, I know that Sue is so proud of your efforts to organize these pilgrimages. So is that her motto, keeping the memory alive, lives on. And so I know she's very proud of you. I actually don't need any rewards, because actually just seeing these crowds every year of former internees, their children, their grandchildren, and other college students, people who we see are going to be our future advocates. I'm very pleased to accept the Baka Guts Awards. Let me just say something about how it received its naming. Sue was someone who was always willing to risk family scolding and community ostracism for pushing unpopular colleges, including her pioneering efforts to decry her unconstitutional deprivation of rights and to advocate for wartime redress. My family was among the 120,000 who were unlawfully rounded up. We were first housed in horse stables, and then we were carted off to Aurora, Arkansas, where I've spent my formative years. And one of the well-meaning teachers decided that she was going to give me a new name. My parents said, name me Takayo, which meant a child with high ideals, but the well-meaning teachers decided to give me the name Rose. Actually, when I give speeches, I say, well, I guess I lucked out. I didn't get Petunia. But I must say that, you know, as a young child, to be told that you're actually not really American, and so it could have had a castrating effect on my psyche. But I feel instead, over the years, not being considered an outsider allowed me to challenge things that were not right. So I carried that fight, whether it was on redress or in the establishment of Manzanar. I also served on the President Carter's Immigration Commission, and where there, I had an opportunity to speak out against unfair policies. When I was a young girl, my father used to admonish me, and he'd say to me, you're a girl child, and your place is to grow up to become a good wife and mother. And when I would protest, you know, he ignored me. But when I would come home with good grades, when I would hold a class office, or when I did well in athletics, my dad, he would turn to my mother and he would say something to the effect as, it's such a shame that she did not come with kintamas. Some people laugh, it's gonads. What he meant was, it's too bad he was not a boy. Well, when I told my father that I wanted to go to UCLA to become a teacher, he told me my role is to become a good wife and mother. Years later, when I told my father I wanted to go to law school, he said, again, no. And I said, why? He said, well, you're too honest to make it as a lawyer. When I was in law school, I read the Korematsu case, which is a case challenging the roundup and the incarceration of Japanese Americans in World War II, which was lost at that point. But I talked to my dad and I said to him, well, what did you do? And he said, Shigatakunai, which meant something to the effect as there was nothing he could do. Later, as an attorney, my mindset of being an outsider really helped me throughout my career. And I wanted to share not only what we did in terms of Manzanar, the Wartime Commission, but also on the Carter Commission. One day, I was challenging the chairman, his name is Father Hesberg, about some policy about infringing anyway what I feel as immigrants' rights. And I just took him on, and loudly and clearly, and I understand later that Senator Ted Kennedy leaned over to a colleague and he said, wow, does that woman have bows? So I thought, Oh, my dad would be so happy. Yeah, anyway. In 1972 is when I first met Sue, and she came to ask me. I was at USC, the Western Center on Law and Poverty, and she asked me to be their attorney. And that was the beginning of an amazing journey for us. It's been quite an quixotic adventure, and it provided a lot of rewards in and of itself. So I really don't need any awards. However, on behalf of all of you who work so tirelessly to keep the memory alive, I proudly accept this award. I salute the many folks who supported us in different ways. 3 former honorees, Tak Yamamoto. Tak, can you hear me? Bill Michaels, a fellow Bakaguts, and this wonderful fellow, Keith Bright. His granddaughter Rose now works at the park. And lastly, in memory of my former boss, Mayor Tom Bradley, and Jeff Matsui, my loyal friend, who stood by me. It was very, very difficult. I can't get into the details of how ugly it got in City Hall for me. Yes, I'm getting ready in a minute. It took 20 years. Don't rush me. I just want to mention a few other people who are here that are involved in preservation efforts. Elanendo Joanne Kumamoto for Poston, Tak Kohatsu, who's involved with Poston. Let's see, I see Don Hata here and Michimaki, through their writings, have kept the story alive. In closing, those Japanese Americans who have suffered so unjustly, we have a responsibility to work to ensure that this never happens again to any group. In times of peril, when people's rights are being trampled, fight for fairness to ensure constitutional protection. So when your children ask you what you did during those perilous times, you will not have to say, Shigatakunai. And everyone here gathered to remember Sue Embrey, do your part to keep the memory alive. Sue and I had an amazing journey. My last moment when I spoke to her, I talked about how we went from Little Tokyo to Inyo County to City Hall and to the hallowed halls of Congress to make this happen. And I promised her that her dedication and her legacy will always be remembered. So the best way all of us can do to remember Sue and others who have fought for rights is that we need to be a part of keeping the memory alive. Find your own ways to preserve and educate about this regrettable episode in our nation's history. In closing, I leave you with my favorite Mahatma Gandhi saying, be the change you wish to see in this world. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rose, for all your service, all your bakagats. That's an old Little Tokyo saying, because Jack Kunitomi, who came up with that name with his pals, is an old, well, and he's an OG from Little Tokyo, back when you could swim in the LA River. And if you want to meet Jack Kunitomi, he's sitting 3rd row down there. And if you want to say hi to an original Manzanar guy who came up here without going to...
And normally everybody's very excited about having their first child. My mother never said anything about it. She just would say, it wasn't very memorable. And then she would just not explain it. Well, she gave birth to my sister alone because her husband was in the beet fields. And when he came back from the fields, they were only together for a short time. And during that time, the loyalty question came up. And he said, no, no. My mother was not going to give up her citizenship. So she stayed, and he left with his parents to Japan. So he actually just deserted her with my sister and pregnant with me. She did say, though, this was the highlight. She said her brother, Ben, which is my uncle, promised that he would be here for the birth of me. And he honored that. And he came and actually washed diapers for her. So, and all the women here used to say, you have such a good brother. He is so kind. And then when the camps were closing, and she was forced to leave, she had no place to go, and she had 2 children. And I would ask her, how could you afford it? How could you, what did you do? What kind of job did you have? And she would not say much, and I would keep pressing her. And eventually she just said, I had to go on welfare. I think she was very embarrassed about that. And that's when I realized how really strong my mother was to have survived this whole thing that went on in 1942 to 45. And so that's why I come here every year. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. When the history becomes personal.